Whoa! Vixie, you are not Samara. Sit down and get your hair out of your eyes.
Just having a bad hair day.
Vixie, my earliest memory of being scared was watching The Night Stalker on TV. And Carl Kolchak encounters this mysterious monster from Hindu mythology called the Rakshasa. This particular monster, it was a shapeshifter. It makes itself look like your best friend or someone that you trust, so that you'll come to it and it comes to you with open arms. And then it kills you. I'm just wondering, you're not a Rakshasa?
No.
Ah! My God! Vixie, you scared me. You made me scared and fearful. Do you want to know what fear really means to me?
Oh, what?
I see fear as something that is used to control the populations. When I was a kid, we were being scared that someone was going to press the nuclear button and that we were all going to be killed. So, of course, we're looking to the government and being really nice and wanting to do the right thing so that we could be controlled. I remember them saying that the world was coming to an end, and it had been predicted by Nostradamus and all of these other people, like the miracle at Fatima, and so many experts came on saying how the world could come to an end. So we were afraid of that, and with the nuclear bomb, we thought that's how the world's going to come to an end. But no sooner did we, when that was wearing off, next thing we were being scared that we're all going to die from AIDS. And if it wasn't from AIDS, there was always a new scare.
And don't forget the YK2.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
It came and went and there was nothing.
Oh, well, I studied IT, so I know that if the IT people weren't on top of that, changing all that programming, it would have been a real problem.
So the world would have come to an end and the nuclear bombs would have accidentally been launched?
Well, actually, it was more of a financial thing because all the banks' records would have been reset to zero.
What about at the moment? The big news at the moment is the Extinction Rebellion and climate change. Is that real, or is it people trying to control us through our fear?
Well, there is scientific data about climate change. However, it's not so much the change as much as running out of oxygen and causing everyone to asphyxiate and die.
I don't think that would worry me at all. You know, the first really scary image that comes to my mind when it comes to fear was the boogeyman.
Ooh.
My parents had this story about the boogeyman, and the boogeyman was how they tried to control us. If you didn't do the right thing, the boogeyman will get you. And I always saw him a bit like the Slender Man in being tall in a suit and with a hat. But I also saw him a bit like Freddy Krueger. There's quite a few images. But yeah, the boogeyman was going to get you, and I had that image. And
I fell asleep when I first watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I just wanted to prove that I wasn't scared.
So that isn't the image that comes to your mind when it comes to fear.
Okay, the first time I was actually scared was when I was watching Star Wars and I first saw Jabba the Hutt, and I was convinced he was going to come through the TV and sit on me and I'd suffocate and die, and that would be like a really bad way to go.
That's not even a horror movie. Did Jabba the Hutt encourage you to get into horror movie making?
Not at all. My best friend Rachel dared me
To make a horror movie?
to make a horror movie.
And this is when you were at school, university, making
Oh
movies?
no, I was in between IT jobs.
Yeah? But you studied filmmaking.
That came much later actually. I started making short films and just finding out that I needed to find out so much more about how to make short films, and then I enrolled.
So you're making the films first.
Yeah.
I forgot.
I realized how deeply in over my head I was when my first horror film, I completely screwed up the sound. Like, it is completely unusable. So it's still in pieces on my hard drive that I keep saying one day I'm going to fix.
Well, I can tell you that being afraid of something isn't what got me into making horror movies. Fantasy movies. Funny enough, you mentioned Star Wars. Fantasy movies is what got me into wanting to make horror movies, to make fantasy worlds. To me, a lot of the old fairy stories were actually horror. Because you've got little children being eaten by foxes and wolves. So, yeah, it
Who's
was.
afraid of the big bad wolf?
Yeah. I don't get into slasher movies, by the way. I know a lot of people do, but a slasher movie to me is quite often a person that you can see as realistic that comes after you with a machete.
That's the scary part, though, because it could be anyone.
Well,
It could just be
Jason-
a person.
Well, Jason and I forgot the other fella. Jason's the one with the hockey mask.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and who's the other one with the other mask from Halloween?
Uh,
They're less like human beings that could just get up and kill you, and more like fantasy. So I get into that. So the Jason movies and Halloween I liked,
Yeah.
but when it comes down to somebody just is a normal, realistic person and they come after you, that doesn't get me at all. To me, horror is fantasy, and it's fantasy that got me into horror. I'm going to tell you a story that I almost never tell anybody else.
Ooh.
No, it's a bad one.
Oh.
It's a very bad one. You know how I've mentioned a few times, but I don't mention it a lot, that I used to be the editorial cartoonist of The Truth. And The Truth was a big national tabloid, went out across Australia. So at that time, I'm like a D-list celebrity. I got to meet the Prime Minister. I got to meet all of the big stars. Well, soon after that all came to an end with The Truth, I could have probably hopped back on the wagon and kept going as a cartoonist because I had a big profile. Now I'm going to tell you, I was making my living at the time from doing a lot of artwork for nightclubs and pubs, right? So to get your money from the nightclubs and pubs, you actually went out to them while the door was still open. So it's night time. And I'd go out and I'd pick up the money, hop on the tram and come home on the last tram. Well, one day I'm coming home. I've gone to the fish and chip shop just before it's closed, which might be 11 o'clock. So I got my hands full with that. I got the folio from having come back with the artwork. I've got a couple of bags worth of shopping from 7-Eleven late at night, and I've been paid from the nightclub. And I walk down the little lane that leads to the park, that you go through the park to come home. And pretty quickly, before I knew it, somebody had just walked past me like that. And I thought, that is really strange. They really walked past me and into me hard. When I look back, I could see this big guy doing this, so he's signalling. And as I'm walking, next thing I thought, oh, fuck. This other guy comes out and he's aggro. And he looks like he's smiling at the same time as he's angry. And it's like the most sadistic look I've ever seen on a person's face, right? And he's just grabbed me and my guts dropped. Total, the adrenaline flowing, mouth dry, the world slowing down. So every second is like an hour. And I start calling out for help. Incidentally, I started punching immediately too.
Wow.
So I'm not an idiot. But I'm calling out for help, and as I've looked down the street, I can see all of the lights going off. The house lights in the street. So they've heard me. They know what's happening. And this guy is pushing me into the front yard of somebody else's house. This is somebody that is out sadistically to do something extreme and couldn't give a crap that he's attacking somebody at somebody else's house. And I'm punching as hard as I can while screaming out help. And every punch just didn't feel like it had any power to it, right? And they probably did. But they felt like they were slow, but they were probably fast. And before I know it, the big guy's on top of me too. So I'm actually kicking the big guy with one foot, and I've got my hand out, and I'm punching the other guy who's holding on to me, and he's slowly slumping down. But it feels like it's taking hours when it's actually just taking seconds. And as he's slumping down, I just felt that I wasn't going to win, even though I was winning. So I put my fist through a window of this house. And as I've gone down to pick up a shard of glass, I've copped a kick to the face. I've probably been hit and kicked a lot more, which I found out later from seeing the injuries. But at this point, everything's happening so fast, I'm not feeling anything. And I grabbed the shard of glass. Now, I couldn't bring myself to be really horrible and slice up a person's face. One day I should learn to do it, because you have a right to protect yourself. But as a human being, doing something really dirty and gory, I still can't do. But I've started using this glass, and I've sliced up his hands. And as soon as he's realised, his mates run off, and he's run off. Now, all of that, I did end up following the trail of blood, finding their place. This is with the help of neighbours. And we did call the police. It's all been to court, etc. years ago. But believe it or not, 5 nights later, I'd won an international award for cartooning. And all I had to do was go out at night. First time walking out the door at night, I couldn't do it. Took me 12 months to retrain myself to go out at night. So I couldn't go out and keep earning money from the nightclubs. I was suffering post-traumatic stress disorder so badly that I could never draw again. I have drawn, but it's never been great, and it's only been under a bit of pressure that somebody wanted me to draw something. But I went from being a big cartoonist, won an international award, worked at the top paper. I didn't go on to working at any more papers. So when you talk to me about fear, this is the first time for this documentary that I've really told that story, but that is my story of fear. Some people say that great life experiences, you use them and they help you with something. Unfortunately, my life experience with being attacked and fighting off the offenders has not been something that's helped me in my work. I've kept it very much repressed till this very minute. So I just have to throw it to you, Vixie, about a story of fear and how you use it in your filmmaking.
Story of fear. Well,
You don't.
I don't scare easily. Like well, when I was a child, I was bullied a lot at school. And the kids locked me in one of the bathroom stalls and got spider webs on sticks and shoved it under the door.
Yeah.
And I screamed for hours at first. And somehow I just reached a point where I overcame the fear, and now I'm not afraid of spiders. But that was pretty much the one thing I've ever been afraid of.
Well, you've overcome that fear, and you've gone on to, how many degrees do you have now?
Oh, I have 2 degrees and 1 more on the way.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got over my fear, and so I continued studying.
You are the most determined bitch that I know. Would it be fair to say that that experience helped you develop that determination?
Oh, absolutely. I always think that fear stands for fight everything and rise.